The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
14:20 in the morning, 14 minutes and 20 seconds where the sports talk to get you through your daily commute. Hot takes, recaps, best bets, and a little humor to get your day going in the right direction. Sit back, grab your coffee, and let's get into it. All right, 14:20 in the morning for this 20th day of November, 2023. Today's show is brought to you by SeatGeek.com, the SeatGeek app. Use promo code 1420pod at SeatGeek.com today to save yourself $20 on your first purchase over there at SeatGeek. Good stocking stuffers or gift ideas for the holiday season coming right up. Remember, we are part of the Belly Up Media Network. Go to bellyupsports.com for all their great articles and other great podcasts, such as Corner Booth Podcast, Rise to the Occasion, the Captain Lou Extravaganza, and my guys over at Craft Brewed Sports. Obviously, they're on tomorrow night. Make sure you check out all those guys and other shows that are over there at bellyupsports.com. And thank you from all of us here at 1420 World Headquarters for checking out the 1420 podcast for the 1420sportsbar.com, the official website of the 1420 podcast, where me and Dave write some articles up there, and everything 1420 related is up there for your viewing and listening pleasure. Yet all the links are there to the shows and YouTube and everything else that's on there. So make sure you guys go and check that out. I heard a rumor today, it's been about a week and a half now, that Black Friday is happening this week down in the United States and up here in Canada. It's infiltrated its way up here somehow, even though we don't have a holiday Thanksgiving Thursday and Black Friday specials are up here. I don't understand it why it's in Canada, but can we please stop it with all the advertising? We know. We get it. There's a Black Friday special everywhere. Every website has it. Everything has it. CBS Sports has it. I just got one from my internet subscriber, my internet scrubber, my internet this, that, and everything else. There's Black Friday specials. We get it. I understand there's a Black Friday special coming. I totally understand, but you don't need to advertise as much as you are. We get it. We know what's going to happen. There'll be people lining up. There'll be CBS. There'll be Fox. There'll be NBC. The local affiliates will all have their cameras at the local Walmart, people stampeding over each other to get the latest Nintendo game or whatever, TV or whatever it might be. Black Friday, I get people like saving a buck, but my God, can we please stop with the advertising? There's my rep for the day here at 1420 World Headquarters. Anyways, action-packed weekend in the world of sports. Once again, a lot going on. I'll touch a little bit on the NFL a little later on this morning, because me and Dave usually hit that pretty hard. We're going to form the 1420 Sports Bar podcast later on tonight. Check your local listings when that might be on. But another week, great week in the world of sports. It all started with the something that nobody here in Canada, I shouldn't say nobody, a good percentage of people didn't get to watch because of local blackout restrictions. That was the Global Series, which didn't turn out to be a Global Series because if everybody can't have access to it, and everybody can't watch it. How is it possibly global? I understand it. I get it. There's money reasons behind it. I understand that the NHL wants you to buy the app. They want you to subscribe to all the different things, and Sportsnet wants you to get the this, that, and everything else. But I don't understand for 1 second why a game that is a gimmick game going over to Sweden, having games at that time of the day. It could have been something that everybody could have wrapped their heads around, wrapped their eyeballs onto, and watched that game a lot more than you normally would have. The Ottawa Senators aren't the sexiest team. The Minnesota Wild aren't the sexiest team, and to have those teams playing over there on a Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, Friday afternoon, whatever all the games were, and to not have access to those games, I thought it was quite ridiculous and a bad move by the National Hockey League. They keep saying they want to grow the game, but they only want to grow the game to a certain demographic. They only want to grow the game to people who are willing to spend money that they may not have. They're willing to spend money on having every possible TV station you could possibly have, and I heard something the other day that was quite smart. One of the smartest things I've ever said. Buying a TV is cheap. Watching TV is expensive. And you think about what people have to spend on every app they want to watch their games and everything else. It's going to cost a lot of money. And yeah, it's a privilege to have certain things. I get it. Not everybody should. It's just the world's unfair, I guess, in that way of thinking. And not having a chance to watch certain games that are gimmicky, I think it was a crappy move by the National Hockey League. If you're touting this global series, why not have these ones on TV? be, lift the blackout restrictions and everything else. Like, I'm not able to go to, like, I guess you could say I could go to Winnipeg a couple times a year, or I could go to Toronto a couple times a year and everything else, or to Minnesota or Detroit and watch a couple of games here and there. And I guess I could buy the game if need be. But when these games are a special event, like they're going over to Sweden, and a different fan base got to watch them, and at a certain point of day that games aren't normally on, let us watch the darn thing. And if you don't want us to watch it, then just tell us ahead of time. You don't care about the fans itself. All you care about is the almighty dollar. And that's what it looked like to me. This thing stunk to high hell, in my opinion. I know I have a lot of other people talking the same way about this. So if it's global, make it global, and get kids on a Sunday morning who normally probably wouldn't watch a hockey game because they're at home doing whatever else. And then you have family events like the World Junior is a special time of year. It's a little less special than it used to be. But the biggest draw for the World Junior back in the 90s and the 80s was with the time of game, and it was holiday season. I understand that, but there was games where everybody was sitting around the TV and watching hockey and everything else. And it was Team Canada, not the Toronto Maple Leafs or the Ottawa Senators or the Minnesota Wild. I get it, but when you have an opportunity that, like the NHL did, to have those games on at a certain point of day when people normally wouldn't be watching, and everybody's home sitting around having a bagel or a piece of toast or a bowl of Fruit Loops, whatever it might be, for breakfast, and not being able to watch those games when you know it's on. They talk about it being on the global series. They push it pretty hard all over everywhere, and you couldn't watch the darn thing. I found it ridiculous that those games were blacked out. I get have it. If you want to black out the other 80 games this season for those teams, go right ahead. But the ones that are played over in a European nation, let everybody watch. Let everybody be a part of it. It was a ridiculous move by the National Hockey League and Sportsnet and TSN, because they're all guilty of it. And I understand that there's the broadcasting rights, people, and they want you to buy the app and everything. But you know what? Let people who don't normally get to watch those games and make it a global thing. And maybe you could have reached out to one kid who's, hey, this hockey thing's kind of cool. I heard about it, but I don't get to watch it. Or maybe like he's out playing, doing other things on a Wednesday night or a Saturday night or whatever it might be. And a young kid might have saw something they liked. And I don't understand why the NHL continues, and all sports do. We'll get to that in half a second too. But I don't understand why the National Hockey League does that. And every sport does that. Don't make it regional, make it global, like your global series was supposed to be, and let it go. Let's get to the we'll let that one go. Next time something gets blacked out, and I'll be pissed off about that one too. But it's not going to go away. But maybe somebody at NHL headquarters listen to 1420 Sports Bar podcasts and get their thoughts on it. I'd actually like to hear everybody's thoughts on that. Get back to us on our social media or email us at the14 or 1420sports@gmail.com. NHL, the National Hockey's rolling through. Like the teams that are there. I heard something this morning. I was watching the Jeff Merrick show, and it's quite funny that the National Hockey League, the way it is, and American Thanksgiving, we've beaten that down for a while. If you're in a playoff spot by American Thanksgiving, which is Thursday, they usually have a pretty good spot. And it's funny to see how the Edmonton Oilers, when they fired Coach Jay Woodcroft last week, they won 3 in a row since then. Then they lost on to Tampa Bay on Saturday afternoon. Again, they probably should have won, and did let them didn't kind of let that one get away from them. And I actually said that was going to happen, but get to that in half a second. But it's funny that they fire Woodcroft, and they were 7 points out, and they go, okay, we got to make a knee-jerk reaction, get something done here, and we got to figure a way to get ourselves into a playoff spot and do it. And they won 3 in a row. They lost the one, and now they're 8 points out. So losing a game that you're supposed to win after you start off so bad is so hazardous to your playoff health in any sport, but especially in hockey, where it can get away from you quick, like it did with the Oilers. And now they're 8 points out, and they're in Florida, I think, tomorrow night, and then into Carolina. It's tonight and Wednesday. It doesn't much matter. But you have a team right now that's in big trouble, and now they're further out of a playoff spot after winning 3 in a row and firing their coach that they were when they actually fired their coach. And it's scary to think that that's the way it's going to happen throughout the league. And it's almost trying to turn out the lights and still look at next year for the Edmonton Oilers and a lot of those teams that were on that playoff bubble, because 8 points out isn't the bubble team anymore. You're just a bad hockey team. Bad hockey team. I'm not going to see they're a bad hockey team, but they've been a really irrelevant franchise since they came in the league. I'm not talking about the Oilers anymore. I'm talking about the Columbus Blue Jackets. They're bloody well awful. They have a terrible record. They have I think 4 wins on the season so far. And the Johnny Gaudreau, Johnny Hockey experiment has not happened. He's not had a good start to his Blue Jackets career in his second year of the contract he got there when he left Edmonton. He got 8 at 8.5, I think it was, and it hasn't worked out for him. He was benched a couple of times. He got benched over the weekend again. So That's twice in the last 3 games he's been benched. But another guy they're spending a lot of money on is Patrick Laine, former sniper with the Winnipeg Jets, and then he went over to Columbus because there was things going on. He wasn't happy, and the Dubois wasn't happy, and lots of guys weren't happy. Sometimes I'm not happy. You can't just fucking leave, but I guess you can always leave. But you see a guy like Laine, he was benched a couple of times, and then it got worse for him last night. He got actually told to go sit in the press box and eat popcorn or hot dogs, whatever it is, and take his smelly old turtleneck upstairs with him. And your services were not required on the ice. You might as well go sit in the stands. And I do like that a coach would do that, but boy, oh boy, if you're trying to make a name for yourself and you're going to miss the playoffs, and you have your best guy sitting up in the bleachers, you got to hope that the GM's behind you and the ownership's behind you when you make those kind of moves, because before you know it, you lose by 1 or 2, and you say, well, why wasn't that guy on the ice? He could have scored us a goal. We're paying him $8.5 million, but maybe the coach has everybody's back on him with the GM's back and the ownership groups behind him, because that's a gutsy move for a rookie coach. And it's too bad that this guy, I can't remember his name, but it's too bad he's in a situation that he's in with the Mike Babcock situation, where he got dumped into that a couple of days before the season started. Now you got a bunch of guys who don't care once again in Columbus, and they're irrelevant once again. They're going to be miss the playoffs once again, and you just wonder if the Johnny Hockey thing, maybe that'll come to a screeching halt right away. Maybe he'll end up back in Calgary, like I kind of hinted at here at 14:20 in the morning a few days ago. A couple other things. We'll get to Willie Nylander and the Leafs. He's got a 17-game point streak. Probably think it's the 6th or 7th longest in National Hockey League history. Yeah, he's a third of the way to the Gretzky 51 in 1982 or 83. But 17-game point streak, the way the league is played nowadays, it's pretty hard to score goals. Not as hard as it was in the late 90s, early 2000s. But right now, it's pretty tough to score goals. And for Nylander to be betting on himself, his contract is up with the Leafs at the end of this season. You wonder what that's going to say when it's all said and done, and putting out those kind of points and being the Leafs best player, hands down. It isn't even close what he's doing there for Toronto. And they made a point before the season started that Nylander said, we will not be discussing, like this was with the management team of the Leafs with Brad Treliving and the Shanna plan and everything else, that we will not be voicing our contract demands publicly. It will not go out. We will not do it. I'm going to play this season. We're going to try to win a Stanley Cup, or win a couple of rounds, I guess. That's where we're going to go about things that way. And it's worked out to Nylander's favor, because he's been asked a little bit, but he's basically said, like, we're not talking about it, so don't bother asking. And nothing's been leaked by the media or by the Leafs to the media, so for something to get out and things to change. And right now with the Leafs winning hockey, I think they won 4 in a row, and Nylander's been the catalyst to that. You wonder if that's the way that players and owners have to go about doing that from here on in contract years. Say, listen, let's not talk about it. Let's go. I bet on myself. We don't have a contract. I'm going to go out and play as hard as I can. I'm going to score as many points as I can. I'm going to help this team win as much as I can, and then I'm going to get paid. And Nylander's going to find himself getting paid. And you wonder what kind of contract he's going to get, because how much money there isn't in Toronto for next season to pay him. And everybody thought that Nylander contract, when he signed the 3-year deal, like it was 3 or 4 years ago, for $8.5, I think it was, or $7 million. It doesn't much matter when it comes down to it. Well, it does for the cap space, but you wonder what kind of deal he's going to get, because everything as good as Mitchie Marner at it to 10.5, and he's everything as much or better than Mitch Marner is right now. So you just wonder what kind of contract he's going to get and what kind of money there is. Is he going to take a 1-year deal and then wait for Tavares' money to come off the books? You just wonder, because Tavares only had, that's crazy to think that Tavares deal is already done. So it's kind of interesting to see that what he's going to get. He's going to take a 1-year deal at 5 or 6 or $8 million, whatever, and then have another great year, and then all of a sudden get a $13 or $14 million deal, because that's what's starting to look like with these contracts and what these guys are going to get. Nylander's already, his dad played in the league for a long time, so they're financially set beyond belief. What's gone on with his career, they got a lot of money, they're fine, but you always want to get paid and have your own legacy and your own bank account and everything else. But you wonder what that deal is going to look like. Finish up the hockey talk for this morning here at 14:20 in the morning. The Milan Lucic situation in Boston. He domestic abuse. There was a situation there in Boston on Friday night. I guess he came home, and the reports are that he strangled his wife and threatened her and everything else. And you don't want to get into too deep before we know all the facts and everything else. But he's arrested, being arraigned, I think, today or tomorrow on those charges. You wonder why this has been happening so much around the league over. It's not just hockey; it's all sports that this happens on such a consistent basis. And you wonder how often this happens without it being reported, because there is a bank account, there is money, and there is a lifestyle and everything else that comes with having that kind of money. And you wonder if like how often this actually happens. Like these aren't isolated events. It's not just a sports world. It's in a celebrity world, and it's in rich people's worlds, poor people's worlds. You just wonder how often this happens. It's good that this one got reported. I'm not persecuting Lucic. I'm just stating that the facts here, that these things happen so often. They come out more and more every day on athletes and celebrities because of the media reporting it, right? And so you wonder, like, it happens so often around the world. You wonder like how it's ever going to end. I understand people's tempers flare and people get a little and a lot upset, but it's crazy to think that this happens so often. And it's terrible to think that there's young kids involved. He's got 3 kids and it's a family, and he took a leave of absence from the Boston Bruins for quite some time, and they really they don't really need the guy, because he's at a point now where he's the Bruins still only lost 1 game, but they went and got Lucic for a playoff run because they needed that guy to give Matthew Tkachuk a tap in the laces, like he didn't get that in the first round last year. We talked about it over and over here why Lucic was even signed. So I thought about it back when they did. I was like, geez, then you kind of go, okay, well, he's going to just be that guy to keep a guy like Tkachuk online. And now you kind of go, geez, maybe that's the last we're ever going to see of Milan Lucic. You hope his family's okay. You hope they work things out and everything else. Like, I obviously don't know the guy, don't know much about him, but you just hate to see those stories come up in the world of professional sports or anywhere. You hate to, like, it was my next door neighbor. I'd hate to hear that kind of stuff happening to anybody. So you just wonder when that's all going to, how that's all going to turn out. My USC Trojans went down with a whimper, losing 38-20 to the crosstown rival UCLA Bruins on Saturday afternoon. I think the Trojans, that's not a lie, they ran for 1 yard up until I think it was the third quarter. They had 1 yard going. Caleb Williams had a decent game. He had a great season. He had a really good season. Like, he had a great season last year with the Heisman. He had a really good season this year, but the Trojans have lost 4 or 5 in a row, and this didn't look themselves. Their defense stunk. Even then, when they fired their defense coordinator a couple weeks back, that didn't change a thing. Throughout the game on Saturday afternoon there, you just knew that the Trojans weren't going to win that football game. Just went from bad to worse as the game progressed. And it's just too bad that the college football career for one of the, I wouldn't say he's an all-time great, didn't win anything. So like Tim Tebow's to me is an all-time great quarterback. The Heisman's, the national championships, and on and on and on. Like, Tebow's a prototypical college guy who didn't do much in the pros, but he had one of the greatest college careers of all time. So people are saying that Williams is one of the best college football players. He might be one of the best, but he's not one of the greatest because he didn't win anything. And it's too bad that might come to an end. And you wonder how Lincoln Riley, how the boosters who gave him, the USC Trojan family, how the boosters there gave him how much money over the years. And they said they committed to him. He's 500 in his last 14 games. That's not very good for a guy you paid a lot of money to be your head coach and everything else, and recruiting and on it goes out there in Southern California. So I wonder how that's all going to turn out in the media in the next few weeks. It's going to be interesting how that goes. And we'll call it some baseball here. We'll talk about the Hall of Fame guys that were nominated today. The guys are going to be in the ballot. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But I was listening, like, I wrote an article for the 1420sportsbar.com on Friday afternoon, I think it was. It's up there on the website right now. I want you guys to go check it out. But it was a thing about, like, I understand the Oakland A's are moving. It's a money-driven thing. It was greed by their owner, and on it goes. But you wonder why Major League Baseball doesn't understand that they basically lost a whole generation or 2 or 3 generations of baseball fans, because baseball is such a regional sport, and now you have an area that they're not going to become the fan base in Oakland aren't going to become San Francisco Giants fans. They're not going to go across the bay and watch the games so they're not Giants fans, and they're not going to travel out to Las Vegas because it gets expensive and everything else. And like, they weren't traveling across the city to go watch a bad team. So why are they going to jump in their cars or jump on an airplane to go see a bad team? You might get some people still watching on TV, but you've lost a big generation of baseball fans, and baseball is the worst place for that move. I think the way it's all turned out, I don't know if was the right move. I don't know what else they would do other than getting a new stadium. That would have been the ideal move, was getting the right stadium there in the right fit in Oakland. But now you have a group of baseball fans who aren't ever going to watch the game of baseball again. Like not like black it out completely their lives, but they'll be much less diehard, much less intellectual. They won't follow it as much, and it's too bad because there's such a long history of. I mean, let's not sugarcoat it. The attendance in Oakland's been not just this year or last year. It's been a long time. Even when they were winning World Series back in the 80s and 70s, they were still getting pretty bad crowds when it's all said and done. And they just didn't to catch on. The stadium's a dump, and the stadium was run down, so that all added to it. But you just wonder why. Like, couldn't they figure something out to keep people interested in baseball? And it goes back to that stadium series, or it's not stadium series, the global series. It goes back to that why baseball, professional sports really try to alienate. They actually alienate their fan bases throughout the world, and not having games available to watch and games available and try to help the fans that they already have, and alienating the fans you have, and then trying to reach out to fans you don't have. If you're not a fan of a sport, you're not a fan of a sport. You're not going to be all of a sudden ingrained. Like maybe 1 out of every 30 people might change their mind and say, hey, this is pretty cool. But that's not the way it works. Like, but if you're a sports fan when you're young, you're a sports fan when you're old. Very rarely do you grow into it. Like, it's just one of those things, right? So you just wonder why baseball didn't try to figure something out with the Oakland situation, get some outside arbiters and arbitrators and everything else, and get a deal done in downtown Oakland like they had talked about. Because baseball's worse right now, is going to be worse for a long time without the Oakland A's being there in Oakland. It's the people of Las Vegas, or the Las Vegas ownership, the Fischer guy, he's going to find out real quick that the grass isn't always greener. It's just different, and it's too bad that they moved away. And to wrap things up, the Grey Cup was yesterday. Montreal Alouettes, Winnipeg Blue Bombers. I got the last 3 quarters of it. Great football game, entertaining. Went down to the bitter end. The Montreal Alouettes came out of nowhere to win the Grey Cup. Fantastic football game, and I'm not the biggest. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I'm not the biggest CFL guy, but I watch the Grey Cup every year, no matter what, without fail. I've been doing it since I was a kid, and once again, it did not disappoint. The CFL puts on it's a different show. It's a great show. It's a different game. It's a great game, and that league has been on life support for as long as I can remember. I remember teams in Calgary back in the early '80s were threatening on moving and everything else, and the Saskatchewan Rough Riders. We've had how many incarnations of the Ottawa Rough Riders? Now they're the Renegades. Now they're the Red Blacks, and the different. The bad feels that they had, and it just on that the woes happen around the CFL. But every year at the Grey Cup time, I get reminded how great this game actually is, and it was an entertaining game year in, year out. The on-field product itself, like the Grey Cup compared to the Super Bowl, on-field product more often defeats the on-field product of the Super Bowl. Yes, Super Bowl is a bigger event, and all on the halftime show and everything else is obviously a much better product. Green Day, I didn't watch. We were over at Browns a little bit, so the music they didn't have the volume on for the halftime show. But from everything I've read, everybody loved the halftime show, and it looked like they were having a really good time out there in Hamilton. There was a bit of an issue. They didn't have any French Canadian language signs up around the stadium during the game, so that was kind of a downer. And one of the players from Montreal, obviously he was a French Canadian French Canadian player. He voiced his displeasure about that and kind of said this one's for all the people of Montreal and French Canadians who play football and everything else. And it was a pretty bad move by the CFL and by the organizing committee out there in Hamilton, but it's just one of those things that was overlooked because everybody figured that the Toronto Argonauts are going to be there, so the signage probably got ordered and everything else. But it's maybe it's one of those things. Just have we're a bilingual country. We have 2 official languages, so just make sure you have. And so it's a national sport televised on the French network RDN and TSN here. So it's a big overlook by the organizing committee and by TSN, who's a big part of all that planning. So a bit of a bad black eye for the CFL in that. But once again, the Grey Cup was a fantastic game, and Dave and I will get into that a little bit tonight. We'll talk about that for sure on the 1420 Sports Bar in our Week 11 NFL review, and then talking about that New York Jets situation's bad. And Pittsburgh with Kenny Pickett, he put up 0 points again yesterday, 10 points. They lost 13-10. If they had any kind of a quarterback who could throw a little bit, they probably have a much better than a 6-4 record. So it's one of those things that Dave and I will get into tonight. We'll have our usual F that team. I didn't swear this early in the morning today, folks, but there it is. Anyways, there's my Monday morning quarterback Monday morning rant about the weekend in sports and with some thoughts and everything else. Make sure you guys go to the 1420sportsbar.com and check out the articles we got going up there and everything 1420 related. But first, here's a word from our friends over there at SeatGeek. Give Santa and his elves a break from the grind this Christmas season and ask for tickets from SeatGeek. SeatGeek has tickets for shows, concerts, and sporting events for around the globe. And by using promo code 1420POD, you will save $20 on tickets. Tickets make for great stocking stuffers and gifts, so go to SeatGeek.com or the SeatGeek app for all of your ticket needs this holiday season and use promo code 1420POD today for your Christmas ticket. There you go, 1420 Christmas time. It's not Black Friday. It's Christmas time here in Canada. The weather outside, it ain't frightful at all. It's quite a nice day here. Man, the sun's shining. So am I here on a Monday morning. Let's get to on this days and birthdays and get you guys out of here so you can go enjoy your day and listen to some more 1420 podcasts. There it is. Happy 48th birthday to retired Major League Baseball player J.D. Drew, born on this day in 1975 in Tallahassee, Florida. Drew was drafted 3 times in the Major League Baseball draft, first by the Giants in the 20th round in 94, second by the Phillies, the second overall in the 97 draft, and lastly by the Giants, 5th overall by the Cardinals in the 98 draft. Drew made his Major League debut later that summer on September 8th for Chicago Cubs, going 0 for 2 at the plate, but would hit his first Major League home run in the 8th inning off a Cincinnati Reds pitcher, Gabe White, a solo shot in a Cardinals 6-3 loss at Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati. Drew would play 14 years in the big leagues, hitting 242 home runs, 795 RBIs, with a batting average of .278 with stops in St. Louis, Atlanta, the Dodgers, and Boston with the Red Sox, where he appeared in the 2008 All-Star Game, the only one of his career. Actually, that's September 8th. J.D. Drew's first game in the big leagues was the night that Mark McGwire broke Roger Maris's home run, September 8th, 1998. That was the night, it was all said and done, and the line shot, and then Drew actually went in for McGwire as a pinch hitter that next night where he hit his first home run, because McGwire, he already had the record and everything else, and McGwire's record 70 home run season that broke Maris's record. It still got beat by Barry Bonds. It's it's one of those things. It's kind of funny that how it all came around. The September call up and the whole bit. So happy birthday to J.D. Drew. And on this day in 1977, the Chicago Bears defeated the Minnesota Vikings 10-7 in front of 57,359 people at Soldier Field in Chicago, on the heels of a record-breaking day by Walter Payton, who rushed for what was then a record 275 yards, breaking the previous record of 273 held by Buffalo Bills running back O.J. Simpson. Payton was suffering from the flu throughout the week leading up to the game and had a temperature of 101 degrees at game time. He also had 1 reception for 6 yards in the game. Sweetness, as he was nicknamed, would go on to win the NFL MVP in 1977 after rushing for 1,852 yards, 14 touchdowns, and the record of 275 rushing yards stood for 23 years. It was broken by Cincinnati Bengals running back Corey Dillon's 278 yards game versus Denver in October of 2000. And Adrian Peterson currently has a record of 296 when he busts out for 296 yards versus San Diego in 2007. Walter Payton passed away at the age of 46 on November 1st, 1999 by a very rare liver disease that happened. And Payton was one of the best, just an all-around great guy and everything else. So Walter Payton on this day, 275-yard rushing day. And it's kind of funny to not to talk. It's funny. 275 rushing yards only resulted in 1 touchdown. Like, it's kind of remarkable. You go up and down the field and they get 1 touchdown out of the deal and then win by a field goal. And it's just the way football was back then. Not high flying, not scoring, a lot of defensive struggles. But to get 275 in a game, there's only been 3 other games in the history of the game, or 2 other games in the history of the game that are better than that. So on this day in 1977, Walter Payton with the record. That's it. 14:20 in the morning. Like I stated a couple times here already today, me and Dave will be catching up tonight to talk about the NFL Week 11, his thoughts and on the Grey Cups. I know he was watching it from his place over there. And then, so that was it. We got a lot going on in the world of sports, as we always do. And thank you, everybody, for listening to the show or watching the show up on YouTube. Make sure you go up to our YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button. We really appreciate it. If you're watching it on YouTube, just hit that subscribe button because it's right down there on the screen, a little guy waving at you. That's me here, Brent Redlinski, over at 1420 World Headquarters. Anyways, that's it for today. There it is. And always remember, it doesn't matter where you are, it's who you're with. Have a great day, folks, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. You just listened to the 1420 Sports Bar Podcast. 4 beer with sports talk and a whole lot more. We are part of the Belly Up Media Network. Let's get into it.